The night was cold, and silence filled the hidden storage bay. Jace sat beside Valera, both of them breathing slowly, trying not to make a sound. Outside, the alien agent searched the base, moving with quiet steps and cold eyes. Valera kept her head low, hands tightly held together. She wasn't the same woman who walked out of the ship days ago. Something inside her had broken free, and she didn't know how to put it back. Jace looked at her face in the dim light. "Why don't you just lie again?" he asked softly. "You're good at it, aren't you?" Valera didn't answer right away. She turned toward him, and for the first time, he saw tears in her eyes. "I was good," she whispered. "I trained for years to lie, to seduce, to win trust." She looked away quickly, but then I met you. Jace stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I was sent to make you weak," she said, "but you didn't react the way they expected. You didn't chase me. You didn't fall for my charm. You watched me instead, like I was something dangerous." She gave a small, sad laugh. "You were right." She said, "I was dangerous." She stood up, walking a few steps forward, then stopped. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice tight, "something I wasn't supposed to say." Jace got to his feet, eyes narrowing. "Go on," he said. Valera turned back to him, her voice shaking. "The real mission wasn't just to convince you," she said. "It was to bind you." Jace's expression didn't change, but he felt something shift inside. "Bind me how?" he asked. "With a child," Valera said, her voice nearly breaking. "They wanted me to get pregnant by a high-ranking human, to create a hybrid bloodline that would make Earth dependent on Ardenian genetics. It was a political weapon. A soft invasion." Jace stared at her, frozen. "And you were willing to do that?" he said quietly. "No," she said quickly, stepping forward. "I didn't want to. I begged the council to send someone else, but they said I was the most effective. They trained me since I was 14 to be perfect smile, perfect voice, perfect lies." Tears slid down her cheeks now, but she didn't wipe them. "I followed orders. I arrived on Earth. I smiled like they taught me." She looked at him with wide, broken eyes. "But then I shook your hand, and something inside me cracked." Jace clenched his jaw, trying to understand. "Are you saying you're all ready?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "Not yet." She took a shaky breath. "But if I had followed the plan, I would have done it without telling you. Without your consent, without your truth, and now you're telling me all this. Why?" he asked. "Because I can't do it anymore," she said, her voice rising. "I can't lie to you, Jace." He stepped back slightly, emotions boiling beneath his calm face. "You were sent to betray me," he said, "and now you expect me to trust you?" "No," Valera said quietly. "I don't expect that." She took another step forward. "I'm telling you this because I'm done being their weapon. Even if it means losing everything." The door suddenly clicked open, and both of them turned fast, but it wasn't the agent, it was Commander Lee, Jace's second in command. Her eyes went wide when she saw them together. "What the hell is going on here?" she said, stepping in with her hand on her sidearm. Valera raised her hand slowly. "I told him the truth," she said. "You can arrest me if you must." Lee looked at Jace, confused and alert. "Is this some kind of trick?" Jace shook his head slowly. "No, she's not lying," he said. "Not tonight." Lee stared at them both, then lowered her hand from her weapon. "This is way over my clearance," she muttered. "You need to report this." "No," Jace said firmly. "Not yet. She told me things no one else knows." Lee looked at Valera, then back at Jace. "You're risking your career for her?" "I might be risking more than that," he said. He looked at Valera, his voice quieter now. "But if what she says is true, we're not just dealing with diplomacy, we're dealing with genetic warfare." Valera nodded slowly, her voice Tired? I don't want to be part of it anymore, she said. I just want to be free. Jace turned to Lee. We keep this between us. For now, Lee sighed. Then gave a slow nod. All right, okay. But if Command finds out... I'll take the fall, Jace said. As Lee left to stand guard, Jace turned to Valera once more. She looked broken, afraid but honest, and something in Jace's heart shifted again. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight, he believed her, and that changed everything. Colonel Jace Monroe sat alone in his quarters, elbows resting on his knees, staring at the locked door. Valera sat on the edge of his small cot, hands folded in her lap. Her eyes were red. Her body still shaking from what she had confessed, but the room felt strangely calm. No alarms, no sirens, no soldiers yelling, just silence. The kind of silence that comes before a storm. You shouldn't be here, Jay said softly. Not? Looking at her. I know, Valera whispered, but if I go back to my guest room, they'll take me. He finally looked at her. Are you sure they're watching you? I'm sure, she replied, that agent the one from the party, he doesn't work under diplomacy. He works under the shadows for the Ardanian High Circle. If he reports that I failed, I'll be recalled, and I won't survive the return. Trip. Jay stood up, pacing the room. He had dealt with war, death, betrayal, but this was something different. This wasn't just about armies or treaties. It was about one woman trapped between two powerful worlds, and now she was in his room, under his protection. Valera watched him walk back and forth. I can sleep on the floor, she said. If that makes it easier for you. He stopped and stared at her. That's not the problem, he said. The problem is what happens if someone finds you. Here, he walked to the door and checked the security screen. It showed an empty hallway, no movement. Still, he didn't feel safe. Minutes passed, then... A sharp knock on the door. Valera stood quickly, eyes wide with fear. Jace motioned for her to hide behind the privacy wall near his shower. She obeyed without a word. Disappearing into the corner, he walked to the door and opened it slightly. Two officers stood outside, one of them holding a datapad. Colonel Monroe, the taller one, said, "We have orders to inspect your quarters." Why? Jace asked calmly. There was a report, the man replied. The alien diplomat is missing from her assigned room. High Command suspects a possible breach in protocol. Jace kept his face still. She's not here, he said. Search. If you need to, the officers stepped in, scanning the room slowly. They checked the closet, the bed, even looked under the table. But when they passed the shower wall, Valera wasn't there. Jace remained calm, but inside, his heart was pounding. Where did she go? Clear, one officer said. We'll continue the sweep, as they turned to leave. The second officer hesitated. He looked at Jace with narrowed eyes. If you do see her, Colonel, he said slowly, you'll report it immediately. Won't you? Of course, Jace replied, nodding. Once the door closed, Jace locked it fast and rushed to the privacy wall. Valera. He whispered. No answer. Then, slowly, the vent cover under his bed slid open, and Valera crawled out. Her hands and arms were dirty, but her face showed a tiny, proud smile. You forget I was trained for infiltration, she whispered. Jace let out a breath and shook his head. You're going to get me court-martialed, he said. She stood and looked at him. Maybe, she replied, but I'll die if I go back, and I think. You don't want that to happen. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence told her everything, but before either could speak again, the room lights flickered, then turned red. An alert buzzed softly through the wall speaker's base. Security alert. Intrusion detected Sector 3. Jace ran to the panel and tapped for details. His heart stopped. The alert wasn't for Valera, it was for him. A private message appeared on screen. Call. Monroe under investigation, protective. Custody request issued. He stared at the screen. then looked at Valera. "They're coming for me now," he said. She stepped forward. "Then we run." Jace pulled open the emergency locker under his desk. Grabbing a small field pack and 2 cloaks, he tossed one to her. "We won't have much time," he said. "Where will we go?" Valera asked. "There's an old comms tower outside the main base." Jace replied, "Abandoned. Off-grid, we can hide there for a while." She nodded quickly. He disabled the room's security cameras and opened the ceiling panel. They climbed into the maintenance tunnel just as footsteps echoed down the hall outside. In the darkness of the vent, Jace whispered behind her, "If we're doing this, Valera, we do it all the way. No lies." She asked quietly. "No lies," he replied, and as they crawled away into the shadows, the base behind them filled with confusion, but something deeper than confusion filled their hearts. Something dangerous, something human, something they could no longer stop. The sky above Earth's Base 7 turned dark as a strange silver ship slowly landed on the military runway. Soldiers ran to position, weapons in hand. Watching the ship with serious eyes, even the commander, Colonel Jace Monroe, stood still, staring at the smooth alien craft as it opened with a hiss. Everyone waited, holding their breath, and then she stepped out. The alien woman was the most beautiful creature they had ever seen. Tall, glowing skin like soft gold, long white hair that floated behind her like silk in the wind. Her eyes shimmered like stars, strange and powerful. She didn't look like a threat. She looked like a dream. She walked slowly toward them, calm and graceful. No guards, no weapons, just confidence. Her lips curved into a small smile, and her voice was smooth like music. "I am Valera, diplomatic envoy of the Ardanian High Council," she said. "I come in peace." Jace gave her a cold nod. "Then welcome to Earth," he replied. Though his tone held no warmth, he had seen too many tricks in war, and beauty was often the sharpest blade. Valera was taken to the Earth's base guest wing. Under high security, she acted polite, respectful, and calm. But Jace didn't trust her. He had read the secret reports. This wasn't just any alien visit. Her arrival had been requested after Earth refused to join the Galactic Treaty. She was sent to change their minds, but how she planned to do it was the mystery. Later that night, Jace stood alone in the war room, looking at the defense plans. He didn't hear the door open behind him. Couldn't sleep either. Said a soft voice. He turned quickly and there she was, standing at the edge of the room, dressed in a flowing dark robe, her silver eyes glowing in the low light. "I needed a walk," she said gently. "The air here is so different." "You're not allowed in here," Jay said, frowning. "I'm just curious," she replied, stepping closer. "Curiosity is not a crime, is it?" He stared at her, eyes hard. "This room holds classified military data." He said, "You could be spying." Valera didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled and looked right into his eyes. "If I wanted to spy, Colonel, I would not walk in through the front door." There was silence between them, thick with tension. Then she spoke again, her voice lower this time. "I know you don't trust me," she said. "That's wise." That caught Jace off guard. She continued. "My people didn't send me just to talk," she admitted. "They sent me to charm you, to weaken your guard, to make you say yes to their treaty." Jace narrowed his eyes. "And you're telling me this, why?" Valera stepped closer, her smile fading, "Because something strange is happening." She said, "I'm not playing the game like I was trained to." Her eyes dropped. Her voice became quiet. "Today, when you shook my hand, I felt something. Something I'm not supposed to feel." She looked at him again, a mix of fear and wonder on her face. "I've been trained to manipulate humans, to control their emotions," she said, "but you're not reacting the way others do." She stepped even closer, so close he could feel her warmth, and worse. "I'm not reacting the way I should." Jay stayed still, watching her carefully. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Is this some trick?" he asked. "I don't know anymore," Valera whispered. A loud alarm suddenly rang across the base. Both turned to look out the window, where a drone had crashed into the fence. Guards ran shouting, weapons ready, but in Jace's mind only one thought remained. Why would an alien trained to lie tell him the truth? Something wasn't right, and Jace knew. Whatever this mission was, it had already started going off script, but the biggest danger might not be war. It might be something much harder to stop. Something like feelings, the night after the Mend. Alarm. Everything changed on Earth Base 7. Security was tighter, soldiers were tense, and every eye was watching Valera. But she didn't act like a prisoner. She smiled, greeted people kindly, and kept her calm, even when guards followed her. Every step, Colonel Jace Monroe couldn't stop thinking about her words. "They sent me to charm you." But I felt something else. He had heard every kind of lie in his career, but something about her voice didn't feel like a lie. Later that evening, a small gathering was arranged, a symbolic gesture of peace. Hosted by the Earth Alliance, there was music, soft lights, drinks, and laughter, everything to make the alien guest feel welcome. Jace didn't want to attend, but command ordered him to be there. They needed the alien diplomat happy, even if she might be dangerous. Valera arrived dressed in a stunning silver gown that shimmered like water under moonlight. She walked with grace, eyes scanning the room calmly till they locked with Jace's. He stood near the wall, arms crossed, watching her like a hawk. And yet, when she walked toward him, his heart skipped. "Just once, Colonel," she said softly, holding out her hand. "Will you dance?" "No," he said flatly. "I don't dance," but someone nudged him from behind. And before he could refuse again, she took his hand and pulled him gently. The music was slow, and for a moment, it felt like the world had gone quiet. Valera's hands were soft, but cold like starlight. As they moved together, she whispered, "This was part of my training, dancing." He asked dryly, "Touch?" She replied, "The human body reacts to physical closeness. Faster heartbeat, chemical changes, emotional confusion." Jace raised an eyebrow. "So you're trying to confuse me now?" Valera looked up into his eyes. "No," she whispered. "I was, but now I'm just curious." She moved closer, her fingers brushing against his skin. He felt it, deep in his chest. Not fear, not desire, but something older like gravity. "Pulling two planets together, this isn't just about politics anymore," she said. "Something else is happening." Suddenly, her body tensed in his arms. She looked past his shoulder, eyes narrowing. A man in a black suit had entered the hall, someone Jace didn't recognize. But Valera knew, "That's not one of yours," she whispered, stepping back quickly. Jace turned and saw the stranger, staring directly at Valera with cold, sharp eyes. Within seconds, she grabbed Jace's hand and pulled him through the crowd. "We need to go," she said quickly. Now, outside, under the moonlight, they ran toward the base gardens hidden paths where security was low. Jace finally stopped, pulling her arm. "Who was that?" "He demanded an Ardenian agent," she said, breathing hard. "He's not here for diplomacy. He's here to check if I'm performing my mission." "You mean seducing me?" Jace said, almost angrily. Valera didn't answer. Instead, she touched his face gently, with shaking fingers. "No," she whispered. "They sent me to use my body, my voice, my mind. But no one told me what to do if I started changing." Jace's heart pounded, but he didn't move away. Her touch was light, but it burned like truth. He had seen combat, loss, lies, and pain, but this moment felt more dangerous than war, and more honest than anything he had known in years. "Then tell me the truth now," he said, voice low. "Are you here to break me?" Valera closed her eyes, her fingers still on his cheek. "I was," she said. "But now? I don't know what I'm doing anymore." She looked up at him, and for the first time, she looked afraid. Touch wasn't supposed to work on me. Suddenly, they heard the sound of footsteps and voices. The agent was looking for her, and others were following. Valera turned to Jace, panic in her eyes. "If they find me with you, they'll say I've failed the mission. They'll take me away." Jace looked around, thinking fast. "Follow me," he said, grabbing her hand. They slipped through a side entrance and into the shadows of the storage bay. Behind metal crates and old machinery, they waited, breathing. Quietly, listening to guards pass by, Valera leaned against him, trembling. "This is how it ends for me," she said, voice shaking, caught between two worlds that will never accept each other. Jace placed his hand over hers. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe. It's just how something new begins." Her fingers wrapped around his slowly. This time, she didn't use charm, training, or control. This time, her touch wasn't a weapon. It was a cry for something real, something neither alien nor human could explain, and both of them knew, deep inside. This was only the beginning. The maintenance tunnel was dark, filled with dust and old wires. Jace crawled behind Valera, his hands and knees scraping against cold metal. Every sound echoed every breath. Every movement behind them. Alarms rang across the base. Valera's disappearance was one thing, but now, the base commander himself, Colonel Jace Monroe, was missing too. It wasn't just an escape now, it was a manhunt. "We need to move faster," Jace whispered. "There's a hatch up ahead," Valera replied, her voice calm but strained. "They used it during fire drills. It leads to the outer edge." After 10 minutes of crawling, they reached the small hatch. Jace pushed it open and peeked out. The fire zone once used for weapons testing was empty. Dry and full of smoke from old exhaust vents, the perfect place to vanish. Valera stepped out first, pulling her cloak tighter around her glowing skin. Her body was weakening, too much stress, too little rest, but she didn't complain. Jace followed and quickly sealed the hatch behind them. "This way," he said, pointing toward a hidden slope that led toward the edge of the base walls. They ran, staying low between metal wreckage and broken fences. The fire zone had been abandoned for years, but its radiation sensors still worked. Too much time here could make them sick, but Jace knew the path. They reached a rusted pipe that ran under the security barrier. Valera dropped to the ground. Breathing hard, "I can't," she said, her voice shaking. "Something's wrong." Jace turned fast and knelt beside her. "What do you mean?" he asked. Checking her pulse, she held her lower stomach and gasped. "I feel pain and pressure," she whispered. "My body is changing." Jace stared at her, confused until a terrifying thought hit him. "You're not hurt. You're pregnant, aren't you?" Valera looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "I didn't follow the full plan," she said. "I didn't try to do it, but maybe my body still did." Jace stood there, frozen. "She's carrying my child," he thought. "And we're running through a dead zone. We have to get out of here," he said quickly, helping her stand. "We'll talk about this later, right? Now, we survive." They crawled through the pipe, gasping as they reached the other side. Dust filled their lungs, and Valera coughed hard. But they kept moving. The sun was rising, casting a weak light across the rocky edge of the base. Ahead was a small outpost, long abandoned, hidden under thick vines and dirt. Jace led her there, helped her inside, and closed the hatch, locking it tight. Inside was quiet, cold, and dark but safe. Jace lit an emergency lamp and laid out a blanket on the metal floor. Valera sat down slowly, holding her stomach, breathing deep. "Are you sure?" he asked. She nodded. "My kind. We can sense life quickly. There's something inside me, and it's not fully alien." Jace sat down beside her, running a hand through his hair. Everything had changed 1 day ago. He was a respected officer. Now, he was a fugitive running. With an alien woman who might be carrying his child. How long will they hunt us? Valera asked softly. As long as it takes, Jace replied. But we're not just running anymore. Now, we're protecting something. Valera looked at him with wide, unsure eyes. Do you mean it? She asked. You're not going to leave me? Jace didn't answer right away. He reached out, took her hand in his, and held it tight. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, he said. But I know this, you didn't ask for this. Mission, you didn't ask to be used, and I sure as hell didn't ask to care about you. But here we are. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I thought I was trained to feel nothing, she whispered. But when you touch me, I feel everything. For a few quiet minutes, they just sat there, hand in hand, outside. Search drones flew overhead, scanning, inside. Hope flickered like the light from the old lamp. Then suddenly, a soft hum echoed through the room. A small, ancient alien device on Valera's wrist began to glow. What's that? Jace asked quickly. Valera stared at it in shock. It only reacts to one thing, she said slowly. What? He asked again. Leaning closer, she turned her eyes to him full of fear and awe. Hybrid life signs, she whispered. It's reacting to the baby. The glowing got brighter. And suddenly, the room's walls flickered, revealing hidden alien tech no human had ever seen. Symbols lit up, ancient lights turned on, and a voice spoke in Valera's language. Jace didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. This was bigger than both of them. The child wasn't just part human, part alien. It was something new, and the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk, the hidden outpost was no longer dark and empty. The old alien tech, buried in its walls, had come alive, glowing with soft light. Symbols floated in the air, and strange patterns moved. Across the walls like dancing stars, Jace stood frozen, eyes wide. Valera sat near the center of the room, her skin glowing faintly. Her eyes locked on the strange device on her wrist. It's reacting to the child, she said again. Voice low and full of awe. This place was built long ago. Before Earth. Even new aliens existed. Jace knelt beside her, watching the device pulse gently. What does it mean? He asked. Why now? Valera looked up at him. In Ardinian history, hybrid children, those born from our kind and others, were called echoes of change. It was believed they carried something powerful, something that could shape the future, she placed a hand over her stomach. But the council feared that power, so they banned such births. Forever, Jace's heart pounded. Then if they find out you're pregnant, they'll want the child destroyed, she whispered, or taken and controlled. The glowing grew stronger, and a strange sound filled the air, a pulse. Like a heartbeat. Then, without warning, a soft beam of light appeared in the center of the room. A hologram formed, an old Ardinian elder with glowing blue eyes. Valera gasped. This is a message, she said, from the Ancient Ones. The hologram spoke in her language, slowly, clearly. Valera translated for Jace as tears filled her eyes. If this beacon is lit, a child has been conceived who carries the light of two worlds. This child must be protected, for it will awaken power long buried. But beware, those in power will seek to destroy what they do not understand. The hologram ended, and the light faded. Silence returned to the room. Jace stood and began pacing, his mind racing. This changes everything, he said. It's no longer about just escaping now. We have something they want, and that means we're targets. Valera looked up at him. I don't want to run forever, she said. I want to live freely with you. Jace looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. We'll protect this child, he said, even if the whole galaxy comes for us. Suddenly, A beeping sound came from the old console in the corner. Jace ran to I-10. Alert was flashing. Incoming ships detected 3 unmarked vessels. Ardenian hunters, Valera whispered, standing up slowly. They've tracked my biosignature. Jace clenched his fists. They're not landing on Earth, he said. They're coming to wipe us out. This place is off-grid, but not invisible. We can't fight them, Valera said, fear in her voice. I'm not strong enough. And you don't have weapons. Jace looked at the old systems again. Maybe I don't need weapons, he said. There's a launch system here, an emergency pod. Valera's eyes widened. You want me to leave? No, he said quickly. We leave together, but not here, not now. I'll use the pod as a decoy. Send it out in the opposite direction. They'll follow it. Valera said slowly, understanding, and we'll go another way, Jace. Smiled, just a little. Exactly. They worked fast, rerouting power and activating the launch timer. Valera set her signature in the pod systems to draw the hunter's attention. As the countdown began, Jace grabbed the hidden escape route map from the console. There was an old underground shuttle bay about 15 kilometers away. If they reached it in time, they could steal a craft and leave the area completely. The countdown reached 5, 4, 3. Boom. The pod launched into the sky, streaking away like a shooting star. Moments later, 3 alien ships followed, chasing the decoy. Jace looked up and exhaled. It worked, he said, for now. Valera leaned against him, exhausted but relieved. We bought time, she whispered. But not much. We'll make it count, he said, putting his arm around her. As they moved through the night toward the hidden shuttle bay, Valera felt something stir inside her. Not fear, not pain, something else. She paused, placing her hand over her belly. The glow returned, just slightly, just enough to feel. Jace turned back. You all right? Valera nodded slowly, smiling through tears. She kicked, she said, voice soft. Jace's heart stopped for a second. Then he smiled too. Valera laughed, just a little. I don't know, but that's what it feels like. They stood there for a moment alone, hunted, tired, but together, and deep inside them both, one thing was clear. They weren't just protecting a child. They were protecting a future the universe wasn't ready for. The sky was still dark when they reached the old underground shuttle bay. Dust covered everything, and the place smelled of metal, oil, and forgotten battles. Jace found the control panel and began hacking into the old Earth Alliance system. Valera stood near the wall, one hand over her stomach, the other gripping her cloak tightly. She was tired, her body weak, but her eyes were sharp. Watching every move Jace made, she knew this was a teether they escaped. Or everything ended here. I found something, Jace said, wiping sweat from his brow. There's a small shuttle, old but working, tucked behind the wall. He pressed a button and the platform shifted, revealing a hidden gray ship. Its engines flickered softly, still alive after all this time. Valera smiled for the first time in hours. It's beautiful, she whispered. Jace looked at her, then at her belly. It's not as beautiful as what we're protecting, he said. She walked toward him, slowly, carefully. I have to tell you something, she said quietly. Jace turned to face her. What is it? Valera took his hand and placed it on her stomach. I love you, she said, her voice shaking. I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to make you weak, to trick you, but instead, I changed. You changed me. Jace stared into her eyes. Stunned, he had fought in wars, lost comrades, seen the worst of humanity. But in this moment, with this woman standing in a broken world with a glowing child growing between them, he finally felt something real. I love you too, he said simply, and that truth meant more than any mission ever could. Suddenly, warning lights flashed on the old wall screen. An incoming ship fast. Massive, descending hard. Jace grabbed Valera's arm. They followed the decoy, but one ship stayed back. He said, "They found us." Valera's eyes turned, cold with fear. "They won't ask questions," she said. "They'll kill us both." "And take the child." "No," Jace growled. "Not while I'm breathing." He helped her into the shuttle and began powering up the engines. The ship shook as dust fell from the ceiling. The enemy was landing right above them. Jace opened the launch bay, and the ground began to tremble. The shuttle's engines roared to life, but before they could rise, something dropped from above. A small drone crashed through the broken roof. Scanning the shuttle, Jace pulled his gun and fired, destroying it with one shot, but the signal had already been sent. More were coming. Fast, Valera stood and reached toward the old alien beacon device, still glowing softly on her wrist. "I have one more choice," she said. "I can use it." "What does it do?" Jace asked. "It sends a call," she answered, "to any nearby Ardenian technology, and forces it to stand down, then do it." He said. "No," Valera said, her voice calm but sad. "It only works once, and it takes all of my energy once I activate it." "I may not survive." Jace froze. "No," he said firmly. "We'll find another way." But Valera just smiled softly. "This child is more important than me," she said. "You said we'd protect her." All the way, she stepped toward the beacon, placed her hand over it, and whispered something in her language. The light exploded, flashing through the shuttle and up through the ground, high above. The incoming warship suddenly stopped in midair, its engines failing, its systems shutting down. The sky turned quiet, the threat neutralized inside the shuttle. Valera collapsed, her body glowing faintly, her breathing shallow. Jace rushed to her side. "No, no. Stay with me," he whispered, holding her close. "I did it," she whispered, smiling weakly. "For her, for you. Ayo." Jace held her tightly, his heart breaking. "You're not leaving me, do you hear? Ayo," he said. "We still have a life to live. Together." Her eyes fluttered. "I hope so," she said. "I want to see her grow. Laugh, learn." Then her body went still. The glow faded. Jace stayed there, holding her for a long time, tears falling silently. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'll protect her, Valera. I swear it." Later, the shuttle rose into the sky, slow, quiet, and full of sorrow. Inside, Jace piloted alone. A newborn child cradled beside him, half human, half Ardenian, the one both worlds had feared and loved. He looked down at the baby, who blinked up at him with glowing silver eyes. "She'll know everything," he whispered. "She'll know who her mother was, and why she chose love over war." As the stars opened before them, a new story began. Not of battles or betrayal, but of peace. Born from the heart of the one who was meant to seduce, but instead chose to love.